Welcome to another edition of Vigorously with me, Val Kleinhands, chatting with some neighbors today and doing it in the thrash metal world. So this is one of my favorite things to do. I know y'all know that I'm based in Minnesota, but we're talking to Sioux Falls, South Dakota today. Doug, Michael from Exhausted. Welcome, gentlemen. Thrilled to have you.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
Hey,
Is
great to be here. Thank you.
is it really in the name though? Like I gotta ask, like what is the last thing that had you both exhausted?
Going to Milwaukee Metal
We
Fest last
Yeah.
yeah,
Doug and I,
we
yeah,
both
we
came
went to
back
that.
sick from it. So
We're both still recovering.
Oh no! So why does that happen in
I don't
crowds
know.
sometimes? Like shows are fun. We love a festival, especially this time of year. We love a festival in the summer, but
Right.
sometimes we end up getting the ick after the
The
fact. I'm
yeah,
super
like,
spreader.
What happened exactly? Like, where is the hygiene? Or who knows?
Yeah, there's probably not a lot of hygiene going on.
Who? What was your favorite set that you caught?
Oh,
dude,
that's a tough
there
one.
were so many good ones, but I've been wanting to see Power Trip for a long time, and when Riley Gale died, I thought that I never would. So
Yeah,
to finally see that and like their energy was incredible. So that was probably my highlight.
yeah.
Yeah, Power Trip ruled. I've been like a acid bath fan since like the late '90s. I was working at my mom worked at a car shop. She was a service manager, and one of her
Mm,
I was doing lawns, like doing their lawn at the time. And one of their
mhm,
techs gave me some CDs to listen to. One of them was that Acid Bath CD, and this was probably like 1999 ish.
mhm.
And I was like, that's awesome. And I hadn't got to see him yet. Doug has, but that was the first time I got to see Acid Bath, and that was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel a little bit about Typo Negative too, or at least the nostalgia of it all. They're the
Yeah.
one band, they're on my list of I'm pissed I didn't get the chance to see them. Because I
Right.
I seriously got into them only 2 years before Peter died. So
Yeah.
I never had the chance, I never had the opportunity. If Kenny and Johnny ever decided to do some sort of tribute situation, absolutely I would check that out. But they're on
Right.
that list for me.
Yes, that would be, and it's tough because everyone associates with Peter being typo negative.
Period. Period.
Yeah.
Creative
Yeah.
genius, a big, part of the brains behind the branding, the aesthetic, all the above. I mean, you
100%.
you guys give a lot of thought into that. There's obviously some passion, there's obviously some love for some music there. What do you love about music?
I love the connection and how it moves you. And, you know, I know all of us in the band are in a lot of different genres of music, depending on how you're feeling. But between that and how it connects you with people are probably my two biggest ones. Just the feeling it gives you. Can be a literal physical feeling. I mean, if it's loud enough, right? But there's that emotional side, and then just the connecting to it, connecting with others.
Hmm. You'd say the same, Doug?
Yeah, I think similar. It's the way that it kind of I guess like helps you process what you're feeling, no matter what it is. Like, sometimes I'll listen to music and not even realize that I need some type of like emotional release.
Hmm.
If I'm like anxious about something or whatever, it sort of like helps you process whatever is going on that you might not even consciously be aware of yet, so
Yeah.
that kind of like emotional regulation that it can help provide, I think is like a big fundamental thing for me.
Yeah, you can walk away from a show feeling like, oh, I needed that. I don't know
Right.
why. I
Yes.
don't know why. I can't really put my finger on it either. And what's interesting about the metal, of it all, or particularly the thrash subgenre in itself, that is a space where you are plenty allowed to be aggressive and
Right.
and carry that out. Like that's one of the few sacred places that you can do that. Why do you think that that's the place we can do this and like nowhere else?
That's a good question. It is very like a it's almost like a primitive
Yeah.
connection to something, right? Like it's beating your chest. It's kind of in a way like it's a place to let it out. Um it almost sounds cliche. Like it is a space to literally let it all out. Like and giving it, the band's giving it to you and you're giving it back to the band, and there's this symbiotic relationship going on between the crowd and the band.
Hmm.
And it's kind of tribal feeling too. It's not just that you're doing it, maybe in your house alone or whatever, but that you're doing with other people
Right.
who are, like you in some way.
Right. I've seen people go to pop shows for, just because they want to be there, just because they want to party. And it's not that that doesn't happen in metal too, but they're more willing to like go alone or just go just to like, hey, I'm just here and I want to be here. Nah, metal makes it a community thing. You go
Hmm.
to a show, especially the local shows, you'll go and you'll show up and you'll know 20 people in that audience. And
Right.
you'll know them like really, really well. It is a communal thing. And then you'll see them again the next week at a different show. But what bonds you is that they're all metal shows. There's
Right.
something
Yeah.
about it.
It's like in that local scene, you
Yeah,
kind of never go to a show alone,
you don't.
even if
Yeah.
even if you show up alone, you know that a bunch of your friends are going to be there.
Somebody's there. Is that what it's like in Sioux Falls? I want to hear more about what's happening like in the scene, especially musically. What is happening there?
A lot. It is that way. It is. There's a real brotherhood feeling. We just played a show Saturday night, and one of the other bands, and they kind of put on the show when I saw Tony Doug. We just literally just locked eyes, and he goes, "Ew, gross," and I said, "Yeah, that's how I feel about me too." And then we gave each other a hug, and it was a laugh, and it
Standard.
was just a nice, yeah. But it is it's just such a genuine like hug and a genuine like, oh, we've talked on the internet or on texting a lot, but we haven't seen each other in a long time. But and there's just a lot of that going on.
Musically, is metal popular? Is thrash the thing? How does that look in Sioux Falls?
Metal has a decent little scene here right now, but thrash definitely not. Right now it's a
Mm,
lot more core genres, a lot more like hardcore, metalcore, deathcore kind of stuff.
like everywhere else in the country.
Yes,
Pretty
yep,
much. Okay, I got it.
yeah. And
Yeah.
we really do try and shoot with that thrash vibe at times, but we really try and not like limit ourselves to anything. Like when we're shopping riffs to each other. If it sounds cool, it's cool. But like, yeah, uh there's a lot of, like Doug said, a lot of core around. There's some death metal around. There's some that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that in the music. I hear that in, just a bunch of what I was taking a look at when I was preparing for this, particularly in End Result. On the upcoming EP, I do want to tell you that when I heard it, it gave me kind of like, this is what it might sound like if Exodus incorporated a little bit of core. This is what that
Yeah.
might sound like. So, what is your take on that genre blending and experimenting with sounds? It sounds like you're willing to do it as a band.
I think it
I
just
just
happened naturally for
Mm,
us, like we come from different backgrounds in heavy music. Um, Mike writes a lot from you said that you grew up listening to Madball, so you write a lot of, hardcore Madball kind of energy, but our lead guitarist Frank listens to a lot of like Melodeath kind of stuff. So, it just like happens naturally when those things are kind of meeting in the middle,
mm.
figuring out ways to go from like one thing to the next.
and I think it's just being we are every one of us in our own ways. Like we all have like we like every one of us has like we like kind of this thing maybe more than that guy. But at the end of the day, we're all just metal fans.
Yeah.
Like whether that's Black Sabbath and Judas Priest to like the Napalm Deaths we just saw the other last weekend. Like everything in between. I like listening to hardcore. I like listening to metalcore. I like listening to thrash. Like so the fact that we've been these lifelong metal fans, like when I know for me when I sit down to write some riffs, it's just like what am I feeling in the moment and what sounds cool.
Hmm. And musically, that kind of turns into some fast grooves. I can tell
Yes.
the grooves are an important part in the music chemistry of this band. How do you find a groove that you love?
Ooh, that's tough. um,
You just know it?
for
Your face is all
yeah,
twisted up. You just got it.
yeah, I don't know. Like, I'll sit down and I'll find a few notes I like, right? A few like patterns, and then
Mhm.
I just sit with that, and it probably drives my wife nuts. Like, I'll be in the basement with the amp cranked, and it'll just be I will fuck with that riff a lot of different ways until I find what I like, and then it's
Mhm.
like, and then a lot of times I'll shop it to Frank or Doug or the other guys, and they'll be like, hey, let's try this instead, and that's the other part is we're all totally open to being like, okay, yeah, let's try this, like, or we're just open to everybody's input because I think more heads are better than one.
Got it. And this kind of gets into the lore of Exhausted for a little bit here, because correct me if I'm wrong, all of you left other bands and then developed this one, sort of.
Not so much left. Like, Doug's in multiple bands, Frank's in multiple bands. Like, they're all still. Josh is in like six bands. They're all
Okay.
still in other bands, but we like in the in the when I was still in college, so about 2009, 10-ish, I was in a band called Tennessee Murder Club for a while with Josh, our drummer, and Nick, our singer. And then I graduated and had to move away and go get a real job.
We
And I
all
had
do.
previously been, yeah, right. And I had previously been in a band in college that just so happened to play shows with our lead guitarist Frank's band at the time. So I knew Frank, and then when I moved away, I still had to write music. I still had to create music. So
Hmm.
I was just writing. I built a little makeshift home studio, and then I would like be like, "Hey, Frank, I'm not a lead guy," so I'd be like, "Frank, will you do leads on this?" So I've been working with Frank for quite a while, and then I moved closer to Sioux Falls, and Frank and I had been talking about starting something, and then Frank ran into Nick at a some local show, and Nick mentioned to Frank like we should start something with Mike, and Frank's like, yeah, I've been talking to Mike. So then Frank fed that back to me, and I'm like, okay, I'll reach out to Nick because I had that previous connection with Nick being in a band before, and we did this little side project thing called Wretched Earth that was like a 3-song EP. Just it was just Nick and I.
Hmm.
Um, and so then we're like, all right, let's do this. And we're like, who's the drummer? And Josh Ferry is kind of a local legend in Sioux Falls. I shouldn't even say kind of. He, like I said, he's probably playing in how many bands is he playing in right now, Doug? Five, six.
He's
I
the
I
guy
can't
you
even
call.
he's been doing it since the late '80s, early '90s. So we're like, let's get Josh. So we all had this little bit of connection, and then we're like, we need a bassist, and we want someone that has a fresh perspective, and we want someone a little bit. We did want someone a little bit younger than us. We're all at this juncture in our 40s, except Doug. But we knew Doug from playing in his other bands. Why am I brain farting right now, Doug?
armed.
On the spot, yeah. Disarmed
Yeah.
and Wives'
I think it
Tale,
was
and
after I think it was after Nick saw or maybe heard the last Disarm record because he said something like, I like what you did there. I like that you brought something, else to the table instead of just following the guitars. So, he's like, I'm starting this thrash groove band, So that's how he got in touch with me. But
That's
and it just
something,
fit.
yeah, that's something else to the table, though. What do you think that was? What was it that stood out?
When we all talked, because I had seen you too, Doug, because I had seen the Disarm play Four Winds, and I was like, I remember seeing it too, and I was like, that bassist is freaking rocking it up there. And the other thing is we kind of saw is we saw your cut. We saw your vest and stuff, and we're like, this dude likes heavier stuff too. Like, you know what I mean?
The
Like, I think
vest.
honestly, I think some of that was part of it. We were like this guy that wants. I think he's wanting to rip it as well. Like, you know what I mean? Not
yeah, that's a good point
it's
because we should say the band that we're referencing, Disarmed, is like a rock band,
I see.
like
There's a
it
difference.
gets a little bit of like heavier stuff in there every once in a while, but is not really, metal. So yeah, that's a good
Not what you're
point.
doing now. Is
Right.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So is it safe to say that all of you as a collective were looking to do what you're doing now?
1,000% for me. This is a 1,000% what I want in a band, and it's I love every second of it.
I was really excited when Nick hit me up because like they said, I'm a little bit younger and I grew up listening to Nodes of Ranvier, one of the larger bands to come out of Sioux Falls, and Nick was the vocalist on one of those records,
Mm,
uh, which was the one that was my favorite growing up. So I was just really stoked when he, knew who I was and was interested in working with me because it's like, dude,
yeah.
I've been listening to you since like middle school, like hell yeah, let's do something.
How are you keeping your cool when you meet him?
Uh, um, I I wasn't the first time that I met him.
It didn't happen.
Nodes had done a reunion show, and he didn't do the first one that they did in town, but he did do a few songs on the second reunion show that they did in town. And I went up and talked to him afterward, and he was probably like, "Who's this guy?" Because I was just like, "Hey, I grew up listening to you. It was really cool to see you. Like, all right, bye." Just like probably super awkward because he's kind of intimidating. He's a very nice guy, but he's very quiet. So
Oh, you can't
just
read
like
him.
don't
Okay.
know what he's thinking. He's just kind of enigmatic.
Got it. Okay. To me,
Yeah,
that's fun. I see why it's
It
intimidating.
is.
I see why it's intimidating. I understand. But like I
for
also
sure.
for me it's fun because it's like, all right, and a little puzzle to solve, a little bit of a puzzle to play with here. What
Yeah,
what's the thing that's gonna make him crack? But no,
right.
that's interesting and that's cool. I mean, to end up working with somebody that you admired. Now,
hmm
correct me if I'm wrong on this too. You've been a band for, I mean, not really a long amount of time. You formed in 2023,
Yeah, about
and
three about 3 years almost to the day. I mean, we probably first jammed in June of 2023.
okay, so we're coming up definitely on
Yeah,
3 years. Debut EP comes out about a year after that.
yeah,
And if we're talking just like general timeline, by band standards, Exhausted is still a baby. Like,
yes.
so is there is there something that you're learning with Exhausted that maybe you didn't learn with your other bands, or are we pulling experience, previous experience, and maybe using it when it comes to what you're doing now?
Probably a little bit both for me, Doug. I don't know. It's being as I've worked with almost everyone in the band except for Doug, but Doug's very easy to work with. It's just it's mainly pulling on previous experiences, but it is its own beast in its own way.
Yeah. Do we feel like we're just beginning to process how far you've come with all this and where you want to go? Or 3 years in, you've got the groove locked down, you're locked in, and we know what we're doing?
I f- I feel like when we and correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, when because we've already started writing about another batch of 2 to 3 songs. I felt like when we had the time to really work on it, it flowed faster this time. It flowed like we kind of had a better rhythm for each other.
Mm. Yeah, it was going very smoothly, when we've worked on those new ones.
Yeah.
I can imagine coordinating schedules is hard. If you're doing this in addition to 5,000 other bands, I can imagine that that's probably the hardest part of keeping this thing alive. So, what keeps you going and what keeps you committed? Because there's obviously commitment here.
There there's bumps in the road obviously and it is very tough to get five because we're a five piece. I mean, it's very
Hmm.
tough to get five people on the same schedule, and that is a hardship at times. But it's just, I guess the payoff is the music. Like, we're so excited to release this EP and get people. We've shown some people the EP because we kind of, you want a little bit of feedback. What song to push, what, this and that, and it's it's that payoff of that playing shows. Playing last week, and we hadn't played in 8 9 months, and it
Mm.
it, it it's the doing stuff. It's actually releasing the record. it's the playing the shows. It's the that stuff for me is is a big part of it. Having that artistic release.
Got it. It's the fire is ignited again,
Yeah.
is what I'm hearing. So
I
Absolutely.
tell me everything that we do need to know about this new EP. We're calling it Down to the Wire. Obviously, we're excited about it. What do we need to know?
Yeah, it's 3 tracks. It's a little leaner and meaner than our first EP. This one is somewhat self-produced, and we went for a raw kind of approach, something that captured a bit more of the energy that we got live. The place that we went for our first EP, All Poetic Audio, does like a great job. And it brought a certain element out of the EP that it brought a kind of like hardcore vibe that I had not noticed because the guy's a hardcore guy, you know.
Mm,
So you could tell that it was kind of like our EP through filtered through his lens, and that was great. But this time we were like, let's try something different. And so um, Mike is good friends with this guy out in LA named Dave Vanderlinde. And so we recorded all of the stuff ourselves and then sent everything to him for
mhm.
all of like the mixing and stuff like that. And he was involved in all of like he basically coached us through it, but it got this
I
like,
learned a lot of things.
yeah.
What was
Yeah, it
the
ended up with a very, very raw, very like aggressive kind of sound though, you know.
it does sound great. What was the most surprising thing you learned, Mike?
So we could start at the beginning. So Dave is literally he's like my best friend. I mean I grew up with him. His parents are second parents to me, this and that. And we had actually originally scheduled studio time at this place we did the original record, the first EP at. And then one of the band members had a family emergency that weekend, and
Mm.
we couldn't do it. And I was talking to Dave about it. He's like, we could do this remotely, right? And I could just coach you guys through it, and I'd mix and master it. And I was like, we
Sick.
could, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let's try that. Like, I had never, I had never we triple mic'd my cab, and I'd never phase aligned mics. I mean that's
Mm.
ground zero starting point stuff I had never done. And he coached me through that. He coached like there's a lot of little things he coached me through, and then or like helped with mic placements for drums, or helped with what DI we use for like some bass DI and guitar DI because we both. So I was running three mics and a DI in case we needed to do something different that way. I mean, there was a lot, and to Doug's point, what gives this record a little more of a natural feel is I sent Dave versions of us playing these songs live. So he
Mm.
built our click tracks. These songs, these click tracks literally breathe. Like he listened to it and he graduated from Berklee School of Music. I mean, he is a professionally trained
Yeah.
musician. Yeah, yeah. And he's out in LA. He's the main guitarist for a band called All Hail the Yeti.
Mm.
Um,
Cool name.
yeah, and but he built these click tracks to like whenever we naturally sped up or slowed down. So yes,
Mm.
we did. I mean, you're recording from hundreds and hundreds of miles away. So you have to record to a click track, but it is our natural pacing, and it's not just all right. We're going
Right.
180 here, 170 here. It's that takes a lot of time for Dave to even just build those click tracks. So that dude did so much work on this, and we're so grateful.
I'm wondering if, as a musician, that's something he understood. And that's maybe
Yes,
why
100%.
he was just able to structure it that way, because he knew it's going to bring out the best in you guys.
Yeah, it sounds like us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. So the natural feel, the naturally implementing clicks where you would have them if you were playing live, just for example, Is this the bold step forward that we're talking about with all the chatter about this EP? Because that's what we're saying about this EP. I'm hearing that this is a step forward for Exhausted. Is that the secret
Yeah,
sauce?
yeah, I think it is. It sounds more like us, and that's not to say anything negative on the first place we went. I think we were still figuring ourselves out. I
Hmm.
think we went in there and we're like, we have these songs, will you record them? You know what I mean? And so, but like this is it's a little, it's more, it feels more like us. It feels more natural.
What do you hope people feel when they hear any of your songs? New stuff, old stuff, any of it?
I've heard people say stuff to me like even that show we played Saturday night. I since Doug and I were kind of sick, I was just drinking water, so I kept going to the
Mm.
bar and just getting water. And the one of the bartenders, she told me after we played, she's like, I don't usually like stuff that heavy, but she's like, I like you guys. I'm like, we bring enough groove to it, don't we? And she's like, yeah. I was like I want it to be undeniable. Like for like anyone that's likes any kind of heavy-ish music, like it's gonna appeal to someone who likes death metal. It's gonna appeal to someone who like you like it's just undeniably headbanging good.
That Mike, that reminds me of when we were opening for Deceased and you and I were warming up in the back, just with our guitars, no amps. And one of the guys from Deceased was in the green room with us as we were playing to using your earbuds.
Yep.
And he was like, "Oh man," something like, "Oh man, I like even without distortion, I can tell that's heavy."
Yeah,
Flip
yeah,
side, it's like the people who like the heavy stuff are gonna be
Yeah.
like, "Ooh," and then the people who don't like that heavy hopefully would also find something, yeah, to connect.
Yes. It's like the opening to Rain and Blood or something where you just know a can of whoop ass is about
yes.
to be unleashed. What was the first song, album, band, whatever direction you want to take this, that made you realize music could change how you actively feel about life?
Well,
Loaded question. Loaded question, but I love this question.
man, for me it was a long journey. I had a when I was growing up, I'm talking like second, third, fourth grade. I had a cousin down in Arizona who was about 4 or 5 years older than me. He would come up to South Dakota for the summer. I don't know why. But his parents sent him up to my grandma's and he was, he played video games and he listened to punk and metal. And so
Mhm.
like I just was like hang out with him all the time. And it was it's thinking long way back, but it was a mixture of things like Offspring and 311 to like Born in White Zombie
Hell
to
yeah.
Pantera, and it was like, and I don't honestly, it's thinking back now what I didn't know what I was listening to be honest with you. I just knew I liked it. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
didn't know
Yeah.
that but yeah, going back and being like, there's been times I've been like, oh, I remember when I heard this in my basement in fourth, fifth, whatever grade it was, and I was like, now I remember, but yeah, there was something moving about it that I was always drawn to that type of music.
Yeah.
I can remember.
For me, I've liked music as long as I can remember, and I mostly grew up listening to like Christian pop music, contemporary
Mm.
Christian music was as a younger child, and then got really into like Leonard Skinner and stuff, kind of in late elementary school. Um, and then I remember sometime in so I got into like Leonard Skinner, Led Zeppelin, some of those old
Right.
rock bands. And then I remember in sometime in middle school, a friend showed me this band that was I think they were from Omaha called Stigmata. They were never like a big band, but they were some Christian heavy band. He showed them to me at youth group, and I mean it like scared me, but in a way where I was like,
Why did it
I
scare
didn't know you
you?
could do this. Like, I just never heard
Oh,
anything like that. But I was
okay.
like, this sounds so evil, and but I was like, I was scared, but I kind of liked that I was scared. It like kept me coming back. So,
Yeah.
from then I wanted to find more stuff
Yeah.
like that.
There's something about the way, I don't know what it is about those, like, particularly those 70s bands. They are a gateway They are a gateway, dude.
Oh,
Because honestly, Alan Collins, Gary Rosington on guitar, and all those solos, those early Skinner like solos,
Yeah.
I'm like, why? That's honestly what got me interested in music that has heavy guitar. Period. At
Right.
all. Say what you want to say about Leonard Skinner. They're just the two that like introduced me to that dual guitar
right,
classic 5 piece setup that I was starting to learn that I liked because guess what follows? Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses,
Right.
all the above, and then you start to hear Aerosmith bitching about love lost, and you're like, I totally understand this as an 11-year-old whose crush wasn't returned. Like somehow like adult subject matter like relates, but it's they don't know what you're listening to in those headphones. It's fine. That's why I love headphones. Headphones on,
but
world off.
Yeah.
you're absolutely right though. It is those you guys saying that it was my parents growing up. It was Guns N' Roses in my youth too. Is Guns N' Roses. The first concert my parents ever brought me to, sixth grade, was Aerosmith played Sioux Falls,
Oh yeah.
and here a bunch of college kids behind us spilled beer all over me. It was a good time.
That's the that
But
that sounds like a proper initiation. Properly initiated into the culture with
right.
that. So, Doug, was it ever a struggle for you, like the Christian aspect and combining it with all the metal stereotypes?
Yeah, a little bit. Not not much. It didn't really bother me much, but I did mostly start listening to Christian metal.
Mm.
Uh, but there is like a pretty big Christian metal scene, so it didn't feel like it held me back. And then, I slowly got into sort of like the wider metal world,
They were kind of you're
uh,
like maybe Skillet or Demon Hunter, something like that. Kind of,
Demon Hunter was like the one. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. Still one of my all-time favorites, but
yeah.
yeah.
They get you
Mm,
interested in everything else.
for sure.
At the time that we're talking, we're almost two EPs in. Are we working toward a full-length album soon?
It's
It's kind of up
we're
in the air at
definitely
this
we're
point.
yeah, we're definitely writing songs. It's that getting enough done to be like it's the
Coordinating schedules.
yeah, it really is getting enough done to have, and we've even talked about maybe doing like if we did another EP, maybe even after this one, like maybe doing a release of all of them together type of deal or something.
Mm.
Um, doing some combined release or something like that. But it's like I said, we darn near knocked out two-ish songs, have another one right in the chamber in the first few months of this year, and then stuff kind of slows down because people get busy, and I'm just as guilty as anyone in the band with stuff getting busy, and I can't make stuff too. But like it's just tough.
Yeah.
Not playing shows lately has been really nice for getting more of that stuff done too, because
Mm.
whenever you have shows, if you're not like grouping them all like on a tour, and you're just playing like a show every once in a while, then that just really stops you from building momentum doing anything else because you'll have like a few weeks where you can write, and then it's like, okay, now we have to stop that and we just have to get ready for the show, and
Yeah,
it's
that
been
becomes
really
the
nice to,
focus.
to not have shows kind of get in the way of that lately.
Right. Not that they get in the way, but I understand what you mean. Like
Right.
you enjoy them, you
Yeah,
love
it's
playing
not
them.
it's
Yeah.
not bad, but it just kind of co-opts your time, when
Right.
they're all spread out just once a month, once every 2 months, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's hard to really get in the groove with anything else.
I understand. I don't know if this is the same case, maybe similar in South Dakota, because your winters are kind of sort of similar. A lot of our bands, like in this area, winter is like writing time. Winter is like writing and recording time. At least the ones that I know well enough to have that information on. Like that's what they do. And then when it becomes spring, summer, even up through fall sometimes, then it's like, okay, we're locked in on shows and festivals. And that kind of seems to be what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Well,
would
it's
say
kind of,
largely,
yeah.
especially we do have one kind of like decent sized local festival in early December here.
Okay.
But then it's kind of the January through, I don't know, maybe March.
Right. Yeah. People forget that March is still kind of winter here.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah,
then I
we could
think,
have blizzards in April.
right.
Literally. Literally. Prince was not lying. I learned that when I moved here. I do not understand how we like this is tolerable. Why do I live where
It's
the
where
earth like hurts my face? Well, that's because it's affordable. That's
because that's where all this angry music comes from.
it sometimes. Hello after the burial. Hello after the
Yeah.
burial. Hello, like Bob Dylan. Hello, Prince, and all of them. Like, there's we treasure that stuff. We love it. Are there any local favorites that you guys cling on to in the same kind of way?
I mean,
Either South
Doug and
Dakota
I,
or Sioux Falls. Yeah.
Doug and I both grew up listening to Nodes, which, had both, had Nick and Josh that were both exhausted in it. So they were bands I grew up listening to. Um, yeah, so those were got Suffer and Fall and those kind of death metal band. In the early days of Midwest death metal, there Suffer and Fall were big deals around this area, um, which
Yeah,
also had Josh in them.
Suffer felt like they would be a lot bigger if they weren't from here.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like they never quite got their due for doing what they were doing where they were doing it.
I mean, when we were at the Milwaukee Metal Fest the other weekend, Josh was texting me our drummer, and he goes, he goes, I played that 2 or 3 years in a row. We went on right before Opeth in 2000. He's like,
Hell
you
yeah.
know what I mean? Yeah, like I mean, they were right there.
Huge. So,
Yeah.
but is there a challenge to doing this in somewhere like Sioux Falls? What are there? I mean, because to me it seems like most stuff is remote, kind of like what you guys were talking about with the production aspect of
Mhm.
this. So sometimes I wonder, like, is it a challenge anymore? Is it not? Is it still easier for, the stereotypical band that's either in LA and New York and they've got easy local access right there? Or does the internet make all of this easier and it really doesn't matter where you are anymore? How do you feel
Ooh,
about that?
I think the internet can be a little bit of an equalizer, but it's also become, it's also almost become like a paradox of choice where like choice is good, right? Like being able to choose things is good, but it can become overwhelming too.
Mm,
Um, like so I think there is a paradox to choice at times, but I also think there's a give and take to being in a small community, right? Like if you're a good band in a small community, you're the band.
hmm
You are the band, and it builds you up. But at the same time, now you got to find somewhere else to go. Whereas if you're in a big music hub of New York, LA, whatever, you don't. You can thrive there and be that. So I think there's give and take to both sides of that.
Yeah, I often wonder about this too. It does seem like it would be easy to like it could just be grass is always greener because
yeah,
there's less competition. So I hear that it's really hard to get on cool shows in big cities. You need to have
mm,
like guaranteed like 300 tickets sold for it in order to get on like a cool show. And we don't have that here because, we couldn't, you can't even get 300 people in a room here.
hmm
Um, so the competition isn't so high. And like Mike said, that means that you get to stand out
yeah,
easily. But like Mike said, when just are not that many people around here, it can feel like you just kind of get capped at a certain point of growth, where it's like,
hmm
yeah, I mean, anyone who would be into this in Sioux Falls has probably heard us before. I don't
got
know if
it.
or not, but it can feel like that.
Yeah,
Uh, that unlike a big city where you might have kind of like a scene that can rotate through and it's like maybe you go play in this like other area of the city or something and it has a different crew or whatever. It's like everything's the same here. You're kind of in front of the same 30 core people
hmm
uh, all of the time.
and you see them and you're like, all right, Bill, next week. We'll see you then.
Right.
It's a,
Yeah.
it's a straight thing.
Which is great for the tightness of the community,
Yes.
like you get to become good friends with them. But yeah, it's you do have to go a lot further to try to get any sort of return for it,
Yeah.
where it's like if we wanted to go get in front of new eyes, we'd have to, travel, 3 hours minimum to get to any like reason, decent sized city, you
Depending
know?
on where you want. Yeah, I mean, shoot.
Yeah.
And then some cities nurture the arts, some don't. There's
Right.
challenges
Right.
with that. There's some that help with that. There's some that don't. It's just you have to pray that like somebody cares enough
Right.
to
I
nurture it all.
I really think the key is all ages shows.
Mm,
Not only do they bring the excitement, not only do they bring the because I remember being that age and I remember how
yeah,
important that was to me. Man, I saw this cool band. I want to show everyone this cool band. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to be the first one to show everyone this cool band, and then they help build it. They help, and so I think the tough part is a lot of these venues are bars, and a lot of these venues have alcohol, and so then if they really want to make it all ages, they got to pay then they got to pay someone to sit at that door, and
yeah,
that's more money out of their pocket. I get it. I get why a lot of this stuff isn't all ages. So it's tough, but I think if you really want to grow a scene, if you want to grow anything in this world, it's the youth and they build it up. That's just how it's always done in any kind of organization.
yeah, because it creates a conducive environment for word of mouth.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, yes, social media can help, but it's certainly not everything.
And they
And
have the energy and they have the time. They don't already have the 60-hour a week job and the kids and the you know what I mean? It's just the
yeah,
reality of it.
well, that's the
Mhm.
thing. They kind of become your default street crew, or that's what
Yep.
we used to call them was like our street crew. They kind of
Yeah.
become your default version of that, so that you get to focus on the music, or you get to focus on the shows, you get to focus on that part of it, which is a lot in itself. But I've had this conversation thousands of times on this podcast, where a lot of bands today, it's a very DIY situation for most of them, and they truly are doing all of it together, mostly themselves. Maybe they have a small team around them at most, but it's mostly them.
Yeah.
How do you see Exhausted's future in those terms? Do we want to stay DIY? Do we want to find a team? What would your dream scenario look like? Or maybe you have a team and I don't even know about it.
No, it does it seems like for the foreseeable future it would be DIY,
Hmm.
we've been working with a publicist, Colby, who's the one who got,
Shout out.
us with you. Yeah, shout out. And that's been huge having someone in our court, pushing us out there. But you're right, it takes a lot of work and it gets, no pun intended, it gets exhausting trying to do all of the things that you're supposed to do on top of the fact that we're all, working full time or over full time. Some of us are parents and
Yeah.
whatnot. So having a team feels like so far off,
Mm.
you know. But the little bit that we get to feel now is really nice. But it's also like really rewarding to work for your own stuff,
True.
It's really rewarding to do things yourself, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so there's definitely some positive in it. I don't mean to make it sound like awful or anything like that, but you know,
It's like anything in life, pros and cons.
right,
Pros and cons to every single decision. That's, I mean, kind of how I see it. But I relate to the struggle though, just because I mean, I think anybody doing anything creative, whether it's the art of broadcast, the art of painting, the art of poetry, the art of music, whatever creative endeavor you decide on, there's a level of struggle in that.
right,
Regardless of what you do. And that's why I think the people who take on those roles are some of the most passionate people I've ever met.
for
and,
sure.
and I think that struggle is just part of it, and I think it
Yeah.
can deepen the art. Like it's this is mine, man. We spent a lot of, we spent a lot of time writing this, recording this, rehearsing this. It makes like you said, Doug, there's this level of more personal relationship to the art,
Hmm.
to what we're putting out there.
Let's talk a little bit more about what we are putting out there. Your favorite part of Down to the Wire. What is it?
For me, it's the three songs are, and I love this kind of about Exhausted. Their three songs are uniquely different, but they sound like Exhausted.
Hmm.
I feel like anyone like listens to it can find something to latch onto, enjoy. When we sent these songs out to some people to get some feedback, it's funny hearing like there wasn't always a runaway one people liked. There's like, and that kind of felt good. People were like, I kind of like this one, but I like this one a lot better. And someone else was like, I kind of like that one, but I like this one a lot better. And that's kind of like, all right, we're hitting on a lot of things here that people are enjoying.
What's the most surprising piece of feedback that you've gotten so far?
I guess I had a buddy liken some of our stuff to Prong,
Oh,
and I
interesting.
and
Okay.
I see, yeah,
They're
and I for
fun.
and I forgot that early Prong was thrash
True.
before they
You're
they
right.
were like crossover thrashy.
Yeah.
And I'm
I,
like, and I had the same reaction you did. I go, snap my fingers, snap my neck. Doesn't really sound like. And then
Who's
I,
fist?
and then,
Really?
yeah, yeah, right, yeah. And I was like, wait, what? And then I was like, oh, and then, yeah, they were crossover thrash beginner. Like, so like that one took me a little by surprise,
Yeah.
but then it kind of made sense. And then we saw them the other weekend, Doug, and they ripped it. They were fun as
They
hell.
did. I saw them 2 weeks ago and I was in the pit for Who's Fist. I was like, come on, we need to stereotype it right now. If there's a pit song, you get in the goddamn pit for that song.
Right.
If you've never done it ever in your life, that's the one that you get on there for. Doug, what was the most surprising thing about this experience, or maybe the thing that you just kind of held on to as a learning lesson while you were in the process of creating this EP?
It feels totally different to record something yourself versus record something
Mm,
with someone else. And, I feel like I have a long way to grow in that still, but it makes you realize how much it feels like you kind of have like, I don't know, someone like holding your hand or maybe like training wheels or something when they're the ones who are clicking record and you just have to sit there and play it and then they'll like they're like listening to what you're doing and they're like, yeah, that was good, or like, nah, do it again, or
mhm.
whatever. Versus when you have to be the one who's that critical voice and like finding some line between like too critical, what's unrealistic,
Right.
you know, um, versus um like, yeah, that shouldn't go out the door, but I mean, I sat here for hours, like working on tracking and just like over and over, hit record, try it, and then it's like, nope, not good enough. And then, you just keep going, and having someone there doing that with you ends up feeling it's like such a relief that you don't even really understand until it's gone,
They
and then
can
it's
pull you out
just
of your head a little bit because you're your own worst critic, or at least I am
right.
for certain.
Yeah.
And they can kind of give you that reassurance when you're being way too hard on yourself, dude. Like that
Right.
type of situation.
Right. Or on the flip side, when you're like, oh, I thought that was good, and they were like, I heard something. It's great when you have someone who can tell, like, you hit that note a little, it wasn't confident enough, and you're like, I didn't even know, but I trust you. You know what you're talking about, and
There,
Mm.
so
there were there there are a few parts, Doug. Remember on end result, that part that goes. I had to do I had to do two tracks because I did all the rhythm tracking. I had to do two tracks for every, so there was a backup track in case I screwed something up, right? So like, and
Okay.
on all four tracks, Dave he was like, dude, you missed that 30-second note on every one of them. He's like, you got to redo it.
Oh,
And I was
got
like,
it. Okay.
oh, darn it. He's like, you did 31 notes on every one of them. I was like, son of a, you know what I mean?
You missed
All
the 30
right.
seconds note. That is insane.
Well, there was at least there was. He's like there was 31 notes in every one of those. Maybe it wasn't the same note every time, but it was.
Sure.
Um, the I guess the other surprising one was the overdub. So there's spots on these on every song where Dave was like, pick spots you want just a little more punch, and he goes, but
Hmm.
what I need from you, he goes, I need you to create the exact opposite tone of what you already did. He goes, use a different guitar, use a different amp. Use it because what you want is you don't want it louder. The idea is not to add
Mm.
another thing that's louder, it's to fill space. So it should be contrasting. And so the first thing I said, I did it and I did it for all the tracks. He's like, nope, it sounds too close to you. It sounds like you. He goes, listen, he goes, this needs to sound shitty. Make a shitty tone. Think high school, college shitty tone. And I go, I have my little line six practice amp that I had in college. That is on the album. Like we got these high end mics, amps, cabs, whatever. But like the overdubs, like was my I mic'd up this shitty little 20-watt line six. He's like, yep, that's what we're looking for because it needs to be so contrasting. It's not to layer it. It's to fill in the holes in those
Okay.
spots. So that,
Yeah, so that everything, so that there's something for multiple things for a listener to grab onto.
yeah, yeah,
Multiple layers to it all. I mean, that's definitely
yeah,
something that some of my favorite bands do, for sure,
yeah.
when it comes to production.
So I thought that was fun.
Well, and he presented it to you in a constructive way. This wasn't subjective criticism. This is,
Right.
I know you've played it better, man. I know you played
Yeah.
it better. Like, come on, we got to do it this way instead, this
Yeah.
specific way. Makes total sense. Well, gentlemen, I am very excited for this EP. Cannot wait. Cannot wait to get my hands on it and just hear even more than I've already heard. Congratulations on it. Thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you, Val. Appreciate
yeah,
it.
hope to see you
Seriously, this
again
has been this has
soon.
been fun. Yes.
That's been great.